The power system in Lord of the Mysteries is considered as one of the best, not only because of its well-designed, intricate structure and philosophical nature, but also because of the way it deeply intertwines with the world, plot, and its characters. Despite seeming incoherent and chaotic at first, once you fully learn about the pathway, you will realize it is actually well thought out with in-depth meanings and ideologies. It follows a typical 9-level power ladder system, starting from sequence 9 all the way to sequence 1. But what sets it apart from other novels is that there are 22 such ladders to choose from. This means that there is a total of 198 sequences each, with a different set of Beyonder abilities. But of course, a person can only choose from one of the 22 pathways to advance. Before you can learn more about the power system, you need to learn a very important piece of lore, which is the myth of creation. The myth of creation preached by the 7 Orthodox churches says that the Creator awoke from chaos, creating the first ray of light. He then fused himself completely into the universe and made up all of existence. His body became the land and stars. One of his eyes became the sun, while the other became the crimson moon. Some of his blood rushed into the seas and rivers, nourishing and nurturing lives. Different parts of his body turned into different races of Beyonder creatures like the elves, giants, trents, dragons, feathered serpents, phoenixes, demonic wolves, mutants, sea monsters, devils, and various kinds of unknown maleficent existences. His spirit became the eternal blazing sun, the lord of the storms, and the god of knowledge and wisdom. His wisdom gave birth to humanity. That was the first epoch, the chaos epoch. This is the creation myth known to the common people of the northern continent, while the Church of Eternal Blazing Sun and the others blatantly claim that their gods came directly from the Creator's sprite to make them look more authentic. The Church of Evernight Goddess claims that since their goddess represents the crimson moon, she directly came out of the Creator's eye. The other churches also have their own similar doctrines. As to how much of their claims are true and how much is an exaggeration in an attempt to attract more believers, we just don't know it yet. It is important to note that while the Beyonder creatures like dragons and giants are born directly out of the Creator's body and thus poses mystical abilities from birth, humans who are born from the Creator's wisdom does not possess any Beyonder abilities. We can assume that as an entity born out of chaos, the Creator's very existence is chaotic and filled with madness. As a result, the many creatures born from his body also carry a certain amount of such madness within them. During the primordial times, these Beyonder creatures roamed the land, sky, and seas, freely exhibiting their mad and bloodthirsty nature, while the humanity struggled to barely survive amongst them. The only method that humans found to obtain supernatural abilities is to hunt down some of the weakest Beyonder creatures and directly consume their Beyonder organs that are responsible for their abilities. But in doing so, they are almost guaranteed to succumb to madness and become monsters themselves, with only a 1 in 10,000 chance of survival. Even those who miraculously did survive are left in a half-insane state most of the time, and this is only the case when someone consumes a Beyonder organ equivalent to a sequence 9. If someone tries to consume the Beyonder parts of a stronger Beyonder creature, then they have an even lower chances of survival. It is not until after the appearance of something called the First Blasphemy Slate that humanity gained the knowledge of potion formulas. They found out that the various Beyonder creatures and its abilities are not haphazard but can be systematically classified into 22 different pathways each with 9 sequences. They learned that by mixing certain Beyonder organs with the right mysticism ingredients in a particular order and a precise quantity, they can concoct a potion. This potion, when drunk by a human, allows them to obtain the corresponding abilities of the Beyonder creatures with minimal risk of succumbing to madness. This is the potion system that is currently used by the humans of the 5th epoch, and those who have obtained special abilities by consuming such potions are called Beyonders. Beyonders can further be classified into 3 levels. Sequence 9 and Sequence 8 are generally referred to as low sequence Beyonders. And, despite how extraordinary the Donghua make them seem due to the animation and visuals, they are, in fact, not much different from regular humans. For example, despite how stunning Leonard may seem visually when he uses his powers, in reality, all he is doing is chanting a poem and putting his target to sleep. Any normal human with a gun or a steam-powered rifle can easily kill a low-sequence Beyonder if they can catch them off guard. The Beyonder abilities obtained at Sequence 9 and 8 are often basic and are only meant to act as a foundation for the Beyonder abilities you will get at higher sequences. With each advancement, not only do you gain new abilities, but your previous abilities also gets enhanced to match your new sequence. For example, a Sequence 9 Sleepless doesn't actually gain any real abilities. Their only superpower is nocturnalism. They become more active during night rather than day. Their physical strength, intuition, mental capabilities, and other base stats are all improves as the night deepens. This by itself is nothing extraordinary, but this feature only gets more pronounced as you go higher in the sequence. It is only when you enter Sequence 7 that you gain abilities that are truly supernatural and beyond human. Beyonders at Sequence 7, 6, and 5 are often referred to as the mid-sequence Beyonders. Most pathways experience a qualitative leap in their abilities from Sequence 8 to 7. It is at this level that you truly start to experience the mystical nature of the pathways. In official Beyonder organizations like the Nighthawks, Sequence 7 is enough to secure you the position of a squad captain. Sequence 7 is also as high as you can get, as a wild Beyonder without any affiliation to an organization, whether official or hidden. Since the Beyonder ingredients and potions formulas from Sequence 6 and above are rare and often controlled by the respective organizations, it is not something you can obtain easily without pledging allegiance to the organization that controls your pathway. Lastly, Sequence 4 and above are known as the High Sequence Beyonders or demigods. The term demigod doesn't necessarily mean that they are half as strong as gods like Evernight, but rather points to the fact that their existence is longer fully human. At Sequence 4, Beyonders not only gain a qualitative leap in abilities, but also in their life's natural order. They are no longer just humans fully made up of flesh and blood, as they have gained a certain level of divinity. They can now live without food and water for an extended period of time compared to others. They obtain a qualitative change in their lifespan, depending on their pathway. Their very existence is now on a higher level that you can consider them as closer to a god than to a human. At this level, even if they were to die, as long as their remnant will and psyche is not destroyed, and they have a strong desire or unresolved matters during their state of death, they can continue to live as an evil spirit. Starting from Sequence 4, each advancement gives you a qualitative leap in your abilities as you slowly start to gain control over some lesser forms of authorities. Whether it's a secret organization or an official church, a demigod is always amongst the inner circle and is considered as a core asset to the organization. Each of the 22 pathways represents the different aspects of the creator. It governs the different domains of his authority. Despite seeming like a job class from an RPG game, it is anything but. Instead of saying that you steadily gain powerful abilities as you advance along the pathway, ultimately embodying its authority, it is more accurate to say that the authority of your pathway is diluted to different levels, forming the 9 sequences so that you can safely climb the ladder, one step at a time. It is for this reason that the sequences of different pathways are not consistent, since each pathway has a different nature. For example, while most pathways experience a qualitative change in power at Sequence 7, for some pathways, the change happens at Sequence 6 instead. While Sequence 6 of certain pathway may seem very powerful due to its practical utilities, Sequence 6 of some other pathway may be substandard in comparison. While some pathway may seem to have erratic and incompatible abilities at low and mid sequences, they will form perfect synergy at high sequences. While some pathway focuses on bizarre and magical abilities, other pathways focus on combat and destructive power. However, even those pathways that focus on combat is not simply all about punches, kicks, and sword techniques. Instead, the pathway focuses on concepts like battle, war, blood, and destruction. I won't go too much into the details because uncovering the concepts, ideology, and deeper meanings of a pathway is one of the most engrossing things about Lord of the Mysteries. But, if I were to give you a hint, then I suggest that you pay more attention to the honorific names of the gods, since they give you a direct clue as to what their pathway is all about. Choosing a pathway to advance is not as simple as picking whichever one sounds cooler. None of the pathway is better or more powerful than the other. Despite seeming that way in low and mid sequences, at higher sequence, each pathway gets equally terrifying in its own way. Every pathway has its own symbolism, traits, and ideology. Once chosen, your pathway will define the fate of the rest of your life.